so excited. Like I was saying earlier, like the good thing about us, the one or two good things about COVID is for situations like this, I get to talk to more of you at one time. We can talk about your films. And what we're doing this year, we're actually doing a pre-recording so that it can be played automatically at the end of the shorts program as like part of the package. So yeah, for $10, they're getting like a lot. So I'm really happy to be doing those. I'm gonna go completely at random. Just when I get to you, just say your name, your title, what your that's name, title, and then give a very like brief synopsis of the film, just so we're familiar, and then I'll just dive into questions. I don't know if anybody feels like kind of doing like an icebreaker, and you don't have to talk, but that's usually how I start it. So I was really curious to see what was going to come out of the COVID era. I was actually scared that we wouldn't get any films at all. Does anybody have any like little fun stories, some not so fun stories I can remember from like trying to get these films in for this year?
I missed the deadline for last year by like a few weeks.
Okay.
I was really happy to be able to submit for this year. That's my little story.
Well, I'm so glad you did. Anybody else want to chime in?
I
Or
think for me, it was that all of a sudden I had some time at home and I could be like, oh, I better finish my film. I better get my stuff done and finish my project. So it was an interesting time for me to be like, usually being in post-production is my most gives me the most anxiety because it's just like me and a computer. But because now I was stuck at home, it was actually very productive.
Good. Yeah, it's kind of like you were like forced to do all the things that you were putting off.
Totally.
Like, yep, like mop my ceiling. Been meaning to do that. Like, all right. Anybody else want to chime in, or do you want to just get right into this? I'll take that as a get right into this. So my name is Kimia Montero. I've been an A programmer for Wicked Queer, Boston's LGBTQ film festival, for 7 years. This year, I took on the role of print traffic manager, and I know like everybody in this room probably has like a vague idea of what that is, and I really underestimated how much work that is. But like regardless, I was really happy to do it and to kind of see the behind the scenes of putting all this together. So I'm gonna start with John Crawford. You prefer John, not Jonathan?
John's good, yeah. It's just either one works, but usually John.
Okay, so you did the film Taffy. If you just kind of want to just tell us about your title and give a quick synopsis for everybody.
Sure. So Taffy is a short film that I made in Memphis. I was in Memphis for an artist residency at Crosstown Arts and was doing a oral history almost. And it was like a series of nonfiction portraits of people in the queer community. And then I met Curtis, who is an actor, and we wanted to kind of come up with a monologue based on his interview from his portrait from the kind of nonfiction series. So I wrote a monologue and fictionalized it and played with it being part of a larger story. And then we recorded it as kind of an exercise in seeing what comes out of fictional acting or fictional portrayal of an interview versus an actual interview. So that was kind of the setup. And so it's just a story about a photographer interviewing an older man.
Fantastic. So why did you choose to utilize like photography as like a part of that film?
Totally. At the time, I was doing the portrait series there in Memphis, and so I had really been inspired by Mike Farmer, who was a photographer in Arkansas, and I can't remember when, but a long time ago. And he used his garage with just a big window and natural light to shoot these large portraits. And after his death, he became very famous for kind of his work. And so he set up the portrait series in that same way. So I had come to town to take portraits using a very similar format of a large window in the old Sears building in Memphis. And so we set it up as like a 2.25 camera to kind of just take portraits of these folks. So the photographer in some ways was kind of me, and I was kind of there interviewing folks, and so I'd seen that as kind of my entry point into the community and to build the community. And so it became really clear that Memphis has such a strong and vibrant queer community. And growing up in Arkansas, it was the place I went as like a teenager to hang out, or in college I went to like drink, you know. And I moved to San Francisco when I came out, but I had never really got to experience and explore all the cool queer culture of Memphis. So it was, in a way, it was I think the photographer was part of my way of like entering into the community and getting to witness this really beautiful, large, and diverse community of queer people in Memphis.
And I'm glad you kind of mentioned San Fran, because so I was reading a little bit about you. Something like I actually cackled, like straight up LOL'd. And I read that you had you dropped out of the San Francisco like Institute for the Arts because you wanted to become a full-time homosexual. Yeah. And I was like, that's awesome. Like that's where I want to commit my time there.
Yeah.
But like the other thing that I noticed was, did you work for the circus?
I did. I worked at a dinner circus. It was a Teatro Zanzani. It's this.
Okay.
It was like it's a dinner theater circus that was on the pier, and I worked there for 2 years before I went to grad school. So yeah.
That is fascinating and strange at the same time. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was it was an interesting job. I met a lot of fun people.
Okay, cool. And tell us about any future projects, or like what's the future looking like?
Yeah, that's great. One of the things that I liked so much about this project was I got to work with Curtis, and Curtis is also part of the Tell Me a Memory series, which is the nonfiction project. And the Memphis one is out. It's on YouTube now. You can go to tellmeamemory.org to see it, and it's just a portrait series. We haven't really publicized it at all. We just kind of wanted to start creating it. And I'm looking to do more of those in different cities, and cities like Phoenix and other kind of cities we don't necessarily always jump to as being having a queer history. And so that's the Tell Me a Memory project. And we launched the portrait series for Memphis about a year ago now. And we're going to hopefully continue to do those. And we just set up a camera and talk to people from the community and let them tell their own story and try to kind of stay out of the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for submitting your film. It was a personal, like one of my running favorites, and why I picked it, because it really gave visibility to the gay elderly, which I don't think gets the respect that it deserves. Definitely not the visibility that it deserves. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So next I'm going to move on to Abram. If you want to kind of remind everybody of what your movie was, what your role was, and give a quick synopsis for those who have not seen it.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much. I made a short documentary called Sheer Avery to Be Continued. And the documentary is about Sheer Avery, who at the time was a 17-year-old teenager living in Los Angeles. And it's a coming of age story. It just follows Sheer while they're transitioning, and then also navigating their relationship with their mom, who they recently reconnected with at the time.
Okay, fantastic. So how did you and Sheer, like, how did you meet? How did you decide to work together?
We, funny enough, met at a queer film festival. We met at Outfest in Los Angeles. So Sheer was a volunteer when they were 15 years old, and I was an intern at the festival. And so Sheer was volunteering in the department I was working in, and I would drive Sheer home. So after like their shifts. So that's how I met Sheer and their mom. And then a year and a half later, I started my thesis at UCLA. I was a student at UCLA, and I was doing like an interview series on like gender nonconforming folks. Because this was 2015. And Sheer was the second person that I interviewed. And then, Sheer was actually like can you just make a film about me and like everything going on in my
Love
life?
that.
Yeah. And Sheer, would be like, here's my schedule for the week. You're open to film everything. And then it just kind of went from there. And then it was 3 months and then a year and then here and there over 4 years. So yeah, but the short film is just 3 months in Sheer's life. And then I have a feature film in post-production.
Right, because it's sheer every to be continued. So we'll drive back to that in a second. This film was actually felt very, very personal to me. Like I am non-binary, I'm BIPOC, and the scene with the mother, like literally, it gave me like a small panic attack because it's the same thing I've been dealing with my mother for the past like 3 years, and kind of the same excuses that are being used as like that's not grammatically correct, and I'm raising as my daughter this whole time, just like but you were saying that, like I was like you name that, you assigned me female at birth. I was like I literally look like in the dictionary like the definition of gender nonconforming, and I'm patient with her, but it's like after 3 years, it's just it's frustrating, and also it's like sheer explaining that like it takes away like a piece of yourself, and of like when every time someone misgenders you, and it's just an exhausting thing to have to go through daily, and like to have no safe spaces to do it. So thank you so much for shining a light on that.
No, thank you for sharing it.
So the to be continued part. So any like teasers you can give us, like who, what, where, why, when, the vision.
Mhm. After the short, essentially it's so the short film is 3 months, and so the feature is like 9 months. Um, After that, following Sheer and their relationship with their mom in Los Angeles, up until Sheer moves to New York City,
Okay.
when they turn 18 years old, and then there is like the final scene is Sheer in New York City 4 years later.
Love that.
So and yeah, well, I'll leave it there.
Okay. Yeah, Cheer was really hands on this project, correct? They are like producer, should I say writer, but yeah, tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Sheer and I really co-made the film. And that was evident from like since we started making the film. But I think as a filmmaker, and I was so young as well, I was 20 years old when I started making the film. I didn't really know how to navigate that in terms of like a credit and like, all the power dynamics of like filmmaker, especially documentary, and like
Yeah.
how my professors were mentoring me through that. And like, when I got out of film school, I realized more like Sheer really was a co-maker of the film. And to this day, and like every single edit I would send to Sheer, and Sheer would give me their notes, across like literally 100 edits or more. Um, so yeah, I mean, we really co-wrote and co-made the story. Every single, cut or decision made was like final approval by Sheer.
Awesome. All right. So again, thank you so much for submitting this beautiful film so we could all see it. It was an obvious choice for me, and we cannot wait to see the to be continued part. So thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
No problem. Next, I'm going to move on to Niala Moon. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, what your role is, and a quick synopsis of the film.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be showing at Wicker Queer. So my film is One Last Deal, and it's my graduate student thesis film. I just graduated last May, and I wish I had an interesting COVID story, but I kind of entered post-production when COVID happened. So like it was easier because everyone was like sending stuff and editing online, and it wasn't as interesting. So I wish I had an interesting story. But my film One Last Deal, it's about a Black trans woman and her boyfriend, and it's basically just a melodramatic love story. And what I really found interesting and why I really wanted to make this film is because I feel like in the media sphere we don't have like a lot of like love stories that are just like not complicated between trans people and their partners, and particularly Black trans women. So I just felt like it was like my duty artistically to tell a story where the the cis guy is not like, oh, I don't know why I love this person, or like, why are they together? It's really dodgy and, it's secret. I really just wanted to educate people that Black trans women, and particularly because Black trans women are being murdered, that Black trans women are lovable and that there are healthy relationships that happen,
Yep.
and that can be healing and supportive, because a lot of times it's just like, like it's always danger and like who will love me. So I wrote this piece, and it's semi-autobiographical about a time when a Black trans woman who had just gotten her bottom surgery, and she has to pee within 12 hours, all the while her boyfriend has to make a huge sale. And we just navigate 12 hours of that day and them being in love with each other, and like the hijinks that they get into.
Wow. Okay. So it's like literally art imitating life.
Yeah.
And you actually answered a bunch of my questions that I was going to ask you, but I still have more. Don't worry. So I know that you have a history of like advocating for trans QP OC rights, especially fighting access to like proper healthcare, like, and miscellaneous things. Do you think that was what led you on this journey to make this film?
Advocating for trans healthcare, yeah. I mean, definitely. I was really interested because I didn't want to sensationalize transitioning, because I always feel like when trans people are brought in like the media sector, or in like being interviewed or whatever, it's always like, what surgery do you have? When did you get it? How did it feel? Do you like it? What's going on with it?
You're not allowed to ask me that. Like,
yeah, I kind of wanted to hinge on it, but I didn't want to it to be like the whole basis of the short. And which is really, really interesting, because then when it was getting reviewed, and when my script was getting reviewed by our professor, they were just like, why does not this character does not have gender dysphoria? You need to show this character like going through it about their transition. And I'm like, well, sometimes it's like not you going through it, your transition, and gender dysphoria is very real, but sometimes it's just like, like you just trying to make it to the next step, and sometimes it's just like, I just have to pee, like, why can't I pee? Like, versus like, I don't know if this is the right decision kind of thing, So I really wanted to like highlight that experience, because I know for a lot of me and my trans sisters, it was like those experiences, that made it more interesting about like getting surgery or whatever, versus like, oh my God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? It isn't as like a existential decision or query that most people think about it. So I wanted to like highlight that in the most simplest terms.
all right, yeah. So you hit on two really important things to me, because like, full disclosure, like, I fought to get a hysterectomy for 15 years, and people are constantly telling me like, you got to be 27, you need to have 3 kids, and I'm like, what does it matter? They're like, are you doing it because of this? Are you doing it because of that? I'm like, I'm doing it because I want it. Like, that's the only answer that like I need to give to you. But the other part of the film that was like really important to me and that you touched on was like, it was just a film about, it was a love story, a complicated love story. The character just happened to be a trans woman. They're in this loving relationship. Probably not like the healthiest, but when I first said it, I was just like, well, they're both really actors, but specifically I was kind of drawn to him, and I was like, I could feel like the like love from him, and he might be kind of like a hot mess, but he's a really good boyfriend. So, yeah. So I mean, I just, when I started this film festival, not when I started, when I joined 7 years ago, like, the main goal has always been, I just want to show stories and like show beautiful films without the main point being that they're LGBTQ. And that's exactly what this film did. And that's the future that I'm hoping for. So any future projects you want to talk about, or?
Currently, I am working on another trans love story. It's a comedy, so it won't be as melodramatic as One Last Deal. I'm working also on like a crime thriller because I was selected this year to be a part of Lena Waithe's film and grad mentorship, which I'm so happy to be part of that project or a part of that lab. So I'm really just like working on pilot and working on like a feature to really like, jump out there and hopefully get made in the near future. We'll see what happens. Hopefully everyone gets their vaccines and wears their masks and back to like normal again, or our new normal. So I'm really excited, especially being a post grad, to like really just jump into the industry and like contribute to like the art.
Oh, totally. Awesome. Thank you so much for your beautiful film, and good luck on all your future projects. Hopefully we'll see some more submissions from you. I'd be happy to greenlight it for you.
You.
All right, so I'm going to, because I feel like it's unfair because you were actually here first in prompt, is Shakendra. And I also know that Janine was on the same movie. So what I'm having everybody do is just introduce yourselves, tell us like what roles you played, actor, director, and what either one of you, like you can choose, just give a brief synopsis of the film, and then we'll go into some questions. So Janine and Shakendra.
Great. Thank you for having me. So I was an actor in Friend of Sophia. I played the role of Spark, who was the android character in the film. I wish Alden was here to explain it more since it's his film, but basically the film was inspired by the queer experience of the 1950s and 60s. And so in the film, like, we're living in a world where like being attracted to androids was considered a crime and a sickness. So yeah, I played the android character to Janine, and I arrest her for being who she is.
Awesome. Okay. Janine, you want to go?
Yes. Hey, thank you again for having us. I'm Janine. I play Jane. I am the woman that goes for a discreet encounter in the movie. Try to give me a little something. And this, like Kendra said, this is a time where in the future we're being attracted to androids or robots. It's considered a sickness and is punished as a crime. So my character Jane she's going for the goal. She's already taken chances. She has a family at home, so you get to see her on her journey.
Something really interesting I wanted to point out is, like, when I first selected the film, it was Robosexual, and like honestly, I wanted to select it just based on that name. I didn't even care what the movie looked like. It could have been trash. But at some point, I got notification that you changed the name to Friend of Sophia, and like everyone was really confused. And so I went back and watched the film, and then it clicked. And I haven't told anybody else in my team yet because I'm just kind of like riding that high. But like, does either of you kind of want to explain, especially for those that haven't see it, like what the Friend of Sophia term means?
It's funny because in the movie we mentioned Friend of Sophia, so I remember I asked Alden, director, I was like, oh, what does that mean? He's like, oh, it's like a play of words, like saying friend of Dorothy. That's like a sign saying, that's like asking somebody if you're gay. And I remember Kendra and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So Friend of Sophia is a play of like, are you interested in having sex with androids?
Yeah.
So it's a play off that.
But you should definitely like keep Robosexual at some point in like the introduction, though, because it's like the best name ever. I get it. I love it. I understand why it's Friend of Sophia, but like Robosexual just sells itself. And just happened to be like a great sci-fi film. So how did the two of you get linked up with Alden Benno, the directors?
Well, I saw a casting notice for it on casting networks, which as an actor, especially in the pandemic, I'm just on there like every day applying for literally any and everything. And so, but with this specific project, and I told Alden this too, when I saw this, I knew like I needed to be doing that. Like it wasn't like just another project I was submitting to. Like it was something that I needed to be doing. So that's how I met Alden, is through casting networks. And then before we even got on set, he got, and I didn't know Janine before this film either. So before we even got on set or anything like that, Alden had like a Zoom call for us to like kind of get to know each other, like a little introduction, which I've never done before doing any project. So I appreciated that. So that's how I met him, was through casting networks. And then I met Janine on Zoom.
Hey, that's how we're all making friends these days. It's so weird. How about you, Janine?
The same way, Kendra, I saw it on Casted Network, and I almost did not apply because right before I filmed this movie, I filmed a movie like with about a plus size dancer. So I was just like, oh, normally I always get cast as that, and I was over being stereotyped in any type of I hate my body or I love my body type of atmosphere. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I was so interested. But I'm like, they really hire a plus size Black actress in this role? So I just skipped it. I was like, no. But it always dawned on my mind. I was like, I actually like it. It's interesting. Like homosexual. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? So I think like the next day I applied, and then yes. So look at God.
Mm-hmm. It's meant to be able to be. Do either of you have like? Because I know Alden is like sci-fi is like his thing. Like that's like a form of escapism for him, and so it's obviously no surprise why he made Robosexual. Do either of you have like any like connection to like just the genre Impossible, or is that like, was that any reason for why you decided to get involved in the film?
So I definitely applied for this because it was sci-fi. It's one of my favorite genres in general. And like when I think about sci-fi, I think about like fantasy stuff, like Harry Potter, stuff like I love Harry Potter, like that's my jam. So but this was so like specific, and I just had to be a part of it. The sci-fi is what really brought me to applying to be this character.
It's interesting you brought up Harry Potter because I never read Harry Potter. I think I read like 2 pages and I didn't like it, but I got it, you know. Yeah. But then I started reading Of Children of Blood and Bone, which in my opinion is literally Black Harry Potter, and I cannot put it down. It's like, you know, it's mysticism, Afrofuturism. It's incredible, and like you will not put it down. It's kind of a beach read, but like I needed a break. I was reading some like heavy but necessary books. I was like, I need my break. Like I was like, I need to read a book where I don't know I need to write a paper. Yeah, so it's Children of Blood and Bone. It's an anthology. I believe there should be a second one too. It's great. What about you, Janine? Connection to sci-fi?
Oh, I love it. I always wanted to be part of sci-fi. I always wanted to be running through maybe like Matrix 4, 5, 6, 7, one of those movies with a little like my hair, my ponytail turned into a weapon. Like I always like doing stuff like that. I'm always gonna be part of it. So as soon as I saw Robosexual, that story, I was like, that movie looks amazing, and I had a great experience. I had a great experience working with Kendra. Like, ask Kendra, every time she was in makeup, I ran away because she just freaked me out. The eyes, the makeup, and then, you know, all that is like, well, you're supposed to like it. I was like, as soon as you hit action, I'm ready. But before that, I'm out.
Let's go. All right, thank you so much. Any future projects you guys are getting into or thinking about that you want to kind of give us some teasers on?
I mean, again, as an actor in the pandemic, it's kind of like all in the air. Also, I can say that before the pandemic, I was like just strictly a stage actress. Like this is the first film I've ever been in. And I feel like the only reason why I was in it was because of the pandemic, because any other time I wouldn't even be looking out for these kind of roles. But yeah, so with that being said, I'm just auditioning until I get something else.
Okay. And Janine?
Congratulations, girl. You killed it.
I know that was your first feature film. Yeah, that's impressive.
You did a great job. I actually have a film. It just premiered this year, Lockdown Love, on Amazon Prime, and it's on Tubi TV on YouTube.
I have seen that preview.
You have?
And I will be watching that right after this. So,
get it. And I also have another. I'm part of a TV show. It's gonna be on Prime as well. It's gonna come out later this year. And I play. There's one episode where I play the head of a fight club. So that's another thing about COVID. I was, like I said, I was kind of getting out of that plus size narrative, hate my body. Yeah. Like I wanted to try different roles and I was going for it. So that's why I reached out with Robosexual. And then now in the upcoming show, I play the head of the fight club, which is crazy. My first time doing stage combat, like on the TV. So I'm excited for that.
That's awesome. But so you're like getting pretty chummy with Amazon. Did you update your wish list?
Listen, I did not step out this house. Amazon is on speed dial, baby.
All right, thank you both so much, and thank you for the film. And I cannot wait to see what projects you guys come up with next. Thank you again. All right, of course. All right, last but not least, Ruben, you want to introduce yourself, title, and synopsis of the film?
Of course. Hi. First of all, thank you for having me. I watch everyone's work and congratulations, beautiful work. And well, my name is Ruben Navarro. I am originally from Spain, but I live in Los Angeles. I'm based in LA. And I've been here for 11 years already. So I am the writer, director of Hearts and Castles, which is the story of a man who's going through a breakup and he meets another man one night out, and they have a very special bond and connection that will help them to see life in a different way after that. I can tell you a little bit more about how everything came, or do you have any questions? Or
yeah, totally. I just wanted to make sure you're done kind of with it. So I don't want to get like too personal, but I was reading, doing my due diligence on you. You kind of had said something about like a medical condition with a past partner, and that was kind of like worked into this film. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about?
Well, I could tell. So basically, without giving too much spoilers, one of the characters have a heart condition. Mm-hmm. Which is a physical condition. It's not a bad condition of a life-threatening condition. But that's actually, so I met someone with that condition once. So
with that specific condition, okay.
Yes, so it's not personal to me. The story is very personal in many aspects, but basically,
right. I just didn't think it was like art imitating life. Like, okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'll explain a little bit. So basically, I went through a breakup myself, right? And then I meet in another moment, I meet this person with this heart condition. So I asked myself, what would have happened if me going through the breakup, which was kind of hard, would have encountered this person with this thing with the heart, and how, powerful it would have been maybe for me. So that's how the story came alive, basically. So just like two moments in my life, and I sort of put them together with two characters that are not me, but at the same time they are sort of me, in different moments in my life.
That's beautiful. So actually, I love this film from the get, and I actually had to fight my executive director to get it into the Bipoc program, because he also loved it. He wanted to put in the men's program, so we had to have this whole barter situation. I had to give him a film from another one of my programs, but all I wanted was your film, because it was one of my favorite films. And I'd love you to talk a little bit about the missing part of male intimacy that I personally think is lacking in films, especially in LGBTQ films. And I love the way that you portrayed the intimacy between these two men. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So to me, and you said that before, I think it's very important to tell stories where you don't have to say that people are gay or people are, you just show people and you just show these people interacting with
Yeah.
their own feelings and their own emotions. To me, that was key in this movie, and like if you don't know anything about the movie, you don't really know if they are gay or not. You will find out,
No.
but I like the idea that you're just gonna see us just two men connecting, and it
Right.
doesn't matter how. um I think I really like the idea of making them connect through emotions and more like a romantic sort of way as opposed to like a sexual sort of way. And I wanted to explore that too. Not that there's nothing wrong with the sexual part, but in this case, I thought these people will connect in that way. I think it was very important to show also this type of story. Because sometimes many people assume that a lot of gay people connect to the sexual part a lot, which is not true.
Mhm.
That's a part of it. That's a part of us, but there's other
It's
parts of us as well.
it's ignorant. Yeah.
Exactly. So in this case, I wanted to connect with that part. I think it was very important to me doing that.
Okay. I think you beautifully portrayed intimacy, but again, like kind of as you were saying, like it could be like two cisgender straight men, like you're allowed to be vulnerable and you're
Yeah.
allowed to like break down like that misogyny and like hanging on to your masculinity for dear life. Like there is a softer part of every person. And you can bring those walls down. And
Yeah.
that's, I loved it for many reasons, but I really loved it for that's what the specificity of.
You know what's funny, if I may add, like there is one woman when they're sitting in a bench outside of a bar. There is a woman that one of the characters looks, and they exchange like a smile, and it's so interesting
When she walks out of the restaurant.
Of the bar, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so funny how everyone sees that scene or reads that scene a different way. I have my own, idea what that is in there, but some people think he might be bisexual. People try to justify why they are having a specific connection. Maybe he's bisexual. Maybe she's into him. It was just very funny how everyone sees that scene a different way.
Now I have to rewatch it because that scene doesn't like
It's,
scream
it's
out
very
to me.
quick.
I know it's like obviously I know exactly what part you were talking about,
yeah.
but like I didn't remember something super lingering there. So now I actually have to go back and watch the film for the fifth time. So
when you'll see, you'll be like, oh, okay, got it.
Got it. But like, were you doing anything purposely, or is that kind of a situation where however you want to take it, like that's what you can do?
Well, I have my reasons. I like to,
Okay.
I have my reasons why that is in there, and I don't expect people to get exactly what I thought, but I like that. To me, it's not like I didn't accomplish something because you're not getting it. No, I do it on purpose because this is my take on that. But I like that you take your own, and each person, according to your own life, your own experience, is gonna like take something from that.
And like that's the whole point of like art, no matter what the medium is.
Exactly.
Like it's for everybody to decipher or to connect with in their own way. So I'm still, because I'm still gonna check it out again. Like
Sure,
to be
yeah.
like I'm gonna fast forward all the way to that point. But so future projects. Talk about
Yeah,
those.
actually, I have a few things going on, which is great. So I just finished doing a short film. I'm in the editing process right now, which is a very COVID short film. Basically, I wrote a story in a day, brought my friends, shot in my building, and actually came out very good. So I'm very happy with it. It came out from like a very interesting place of being in a, those creative breakdowns, like what am I doing with my life? I cannot do anything, that kind of feeling that we all know and we all have.
Very much so. Yeah.
So it came from like a dark place from there, and I created like a story that is very like experimental and completely different. But I'm very happy with it. So I'm in editing process right now. I'm shooting a short film in 2 weeks. I'm directing another short film in 2 weeks.
Nice.
And I have another feature that I'm developing right now. I'm writing, and I have decided that I'm going to do a Frozen Castles the feature film? What's happening with them after this
Okay.
this story?
Well, we look forward to it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So that is all the guests that I have. There was 2 other films that I was really hoping people to come to. One was you were just talking about an experimental film, and I put an experimental film in the program for the first time ever, because it literally made me cry. And then the other one was actually an animation film that I believe got nominated for an Oscar, about the indigenous people from Hawaii that have just been like erased. Another beautiful film. So hopefully I'll make up another point in time. Does anybody have any questions for other people that came to this Q&A panel? No, you guys aren't interested in each other. That's fine. All right. Does anybody want to add anything? What's that?
I haven't seen the films yet. I need to watch the program. So I'm sorry.
So what I can do is I'll talk to my executive director and figure out if it'd be easier for me to just send you screeners or just give you a pass with a short program. And I also, like I said, do not quote me on this because it's just a brain baby at this point. I would like to offer like any of like the people that come to the Q&As a free like pass to see maybe like one feature film or like a handful of shorts. But in the meantime, while I go try to bribe my executive director with something, scroll through the whole program because we have like 11 different shorts programs, 106 films total, and then we have like 25 feature length films. So scroll through, see if anything is piquing your interest, and I would love to find a way to give you like a thank you for coming, thank you for making these films. Again, don't quote me on this. I'm just gonna try. But for my particular program, I know in the past I've been able to send you screeners. It's just not going to be like in the flow of the actual program that we made. But yeah, just send me another email saying you just like the screeners, and yeah, I'd be happy to do that for you.
Cute. Okay, thank you so
Of
much.
course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right, so I'm gonna wrap this up. You all go back to making beautiful films, and hopefully I will see you next year. And I'll keep you posted if I can grab anything out of my boss.
Thank
Well,
you
Thank
so
you so much.
Yeah, thank you for doing
Thank
this. We
you.
appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
No worries.
part of this.
Keep making the films so I can keep showing them.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure to hear everyone else's story and about their films. I'm interested to see them.
Yes.
Like I said it before. I was like, that is like one of the very few like plus sides to COVID. You know, like if the physical film, you know, like if you're having a physical festival, like that's great, but like a lot of you wouldn't be able to make it here because, you know, for cost reasons or whatever reason. So I actually really love being able to do these Q&As because I get more access than I ever would have here.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you again. Keep creating, and I'm gonna end this out right now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.